Hey, everybody. Good evening. Welcome to Largo's Lair. I'm Largo, and that's the lair. Shout out to Analog Toys. That was a great Series 3 video he just put on, and I really enjoyed it. If you haven't picked up your ladies yet, definitely check them out. They are awesome. We will get to those eventually. Right now, we're kind of just sticking with Series 1. And to talk to you about Series 1, and especially the mission files, I have my friend Wilhelm from Wilhelm Toy Hobby. How you doing tonight, Will? There he is.
Sorry, Jim. Great. Thanks for having me. I'm sorry.
Oh, thanks for being had.
Yeah.
So, what'd you think of Tony's video?
Oh, it's fantastic. I mean, that was great. I love the little segments in there too. They were just awesome. And just when you think you know everything about it, you got someone like Tony who just you know points out some really good points on the differences in the articulation, and all of that stuff there too. I'm sorry, I'm just a little stunned here. Give me just a second.
That was good. So, as you guys probably remember from last time we were on, we do a pre-recorded segment, usually because my internet is kind of goofy. So, we'll go into that, and then afterwards, we'll have a Q&A and maybe a couple of other special little bits. So, you ready, Will?
Yeah, I'm ready. Let's do it. I'm sorry about that.
Oh, no, it's cool, man. So, let me get everything rolling here. I'll put up our little banner for those who don't know what we're doing here. And yeah, so let's roll. It's on you, buddy.
All right. Okay, we got it.
Welcome to Largo's Lair. I'm Largo. That's the lair. And we are talking about Action Force. This is the AF3, or the Forceful Fellowship for those who like alliteration. This is episode 1. Today we're talking about the mission files. So with me is my loyal co-host and Tonto to my Lone Ranger, Will. Hey, Will.
Hey, how's it going, everyone? Thanks, Jim. Thanks for having me.
I'm happy to have you, man. It's been a week. How you doing?
Doing pretty good.
Okay.
Ready, yeah.
So, mission files. We have kind of tried to figure out how do we approach this thing, because there's a lot of material between what we have read in the comic books, what we have seen on the back of the file card, or combat profiles with Action Force. And some of it is just a little confusing. So what I suggested, and you seem to be on the same page with me, let's focus on the mission files. Let's focus on at least the first 4 issues where most of the world building takes place to begin with. And then we'll kind of piece through that and figure out what's happening, when the things happen, and what factions are involved. So that's kind of what we're presenting tonight. We're not going to go into the new novel. There will be some more information coming out in the novel, but we don't want to spoil anything. And we want to also compare and contrast. We're going to see where we started with the mission files and what has changed or what has evolved when we get to the novel. So we'll approach that in a separate episode. So that, without further ado, that's kind of where we are.
I heard these 2 guys might have something to do with this. Yeah, looking pretty good up there.
Looking kind of scruffy.
So here we go. We've got the mission files. So yeah, what we're going to find is in the first 4 issues of the comic, issues 1, 2, 3, and 4, really do set the stage for the world of Valaverse Action Force. There are individual stories in there, but most of them or about more of the world building than the individual characters, which issues 5, 6, 7, and 8 really do feature heavily on the individual characters. So if you want to really immerse yourself in the world of Action Force, you could pick these up. I think, Jim, you were saying some of these are still available on the Valaverse website, but they all are digitally available to you on Amazon. So if you have Amazon, you could get digital copies of these and read up on them. And this is going to be your primer. This is going to get you started.
Absolutely, Will. What we have here is a great way to be introduced to the world of the Valaverse. Now, the first two of the mission files are really set up as kind of like a dossier. Someone is reading a literal mission file and getting a briefing on what's going on in the world, what's going on with New Colonia, what's going on with the Swarm. And intermixed in that is some stories that introduce us to the characters. So in the first episode or first mission file, we see Condor and Bone Collector going at it. We get a tease of the Swarm and what the Swarm is about, and those
how
first
they
two
operate.
issues, exactly. We see a lot of who are going to be the core Action Force members in the background, but we don't really know them yet. We also get a glimpse of Trigger and who he's going to be, because he's very integral to the storyline as a whole.
Yeah.
So I really like the way these were done, the design. We just kind of put a smattering here to give you an idea of the art. The idea of them being actual mission files, of being a briefing, is a great way to look at the story as a whole. So the mission files is the place to start. If for some reason you missed some of these, as far as you didn't get the actual comic books, they're sold out in some cases, not to worry. Like we said, Amazon, Comixology, or Kindle, you can download them digitally. At least the first 4 or 5 issues are available digitally. There may also be copies available at Joe Fest for those able to go. So, yeah. And there is rumor that at some point Bobby will do a compilation of some sort of like a graphic
trade
novel,
paperback. Yeah, sure.
Like a trade paperback. So don't know when that's going to happen, but hopefully sometime in the near future. So
that'd be great.
Yeah, if for some reason you don't have these available, all of the information that is pertinent to understanding the world is available for free on the website. If you just go to Valaverse.com, you can see all of this.
We're gonna go into the world of Valaverse right now in a little bit more detail, like I said. But that those first 4 issues of the mission files, great way to start. But yeah, Jim, before we go into the world of Valaverse, there's just a couple of things I wanted to talk about. Just, how the universe, what it did for me here, So to talk about the Valaverse Action Force and the story behind it, well, I first, I wanted to talk about something it did for me. It's something I haven't experienced in a long time. Throughout my life, I've been known as a daydreamer. I'd often drift away from the waking world and imagine scenarios, stories, ponder the vastness of time and space, all that kind of stuff. Some properties would inspire me. Other times, I would discover a book, movie, comic, video game, song, or any other form of art or imagination that would be similar. Not exactly the same. I'm not saying like I thought of it and then someone made it, but close enough, familiar and new at the same time. Those moments for me in life were always the best. I would get this, the spark or this tingling in my brain, a sense of familiarity, a connection, if you will. Like when you meet someone new and you just click, it's a really great sensation. One that I'm sure many of you have had as well. Well, that is exactly what I experienced when I started my journey into the lore of Action Force. I picked up and read those first issues and kept finding myself going like, yes, this is how you do it. The spark happened again. My brain was tingling. It brought back memories of times like that in the past. Like, smelling something takes you back home again. Valaverse Action Force feels like, to me, like the spiritual successor to many of those stories and franchises I enjoyed throughout my years, while still being fresh and original enough that it clicks like that for me. So enough about me and my stupid brain. Let's get on into what happened to this world.
Excellent. Hey, I'm I'm right there with you, buddy. So what are we going to talk about tonight? This is kind of an overview of the burning questions that we really want to try to answer. Because some of it has been confusing, because if you came into the line late, or maybe you just picked up the novel and you've never read the mission files, or vice versa, it can be a little tough to figure out. So
hey, I've read them all,
points.
and I'm still a little confused sometimes. That's just
fair enough. So, big question: what is the divide? That's a very important piece of history, future history, for what's happening in the Valaverse. What is New Colonia? Who are the Republic Guard? Who are the Garrison? Who are the Swarm? Who are Action Force? Who are the Steel Brigade? And last but not least, who are the Brothers of Bones? And that one we'll go into a little bit more in a minute.
So we have a basic Valaverse chronology, and some of the dates are left off there because a lot of times in the written material it's just referred to as modern day, or But we do know that the divide occurred somewhere between 2027-ish and 2028. There was a second American Revolution called, this war was called the Divide. And kind of as the country was at its breaking point, it was also hit with a massive earthquake that sunk most of California into the sea. The federal government of the USA was dissolved, and each state became an independent republic. Republic territory guards were formed, Crimson Shadows, technologies. I'm sorry, I can't. I'm just not able to read that part, but I'm sure you guys can on the screen.
Crimson Shadows Technologies rises to prominence in the arms industry.
I'm sorry, my thing, it just won't go away. But a handful of republics band together to form a larger super republic known as New Colonia. The Garrison forms to protect and expand New Colonia. And then, more towards now, the modern, or what's referred to as now, or modern day, the Swarm begins offering security, border service, or defenses to republics resisting the New Colonia for a price. Now, their help comes, but at a great cost. And many of the republics that went to them for help are now finding themselves under their thumb. But Condor covertly recruits the team that will become Action Force. And this is all done to stop New Colonia's expanse.
Right. And there's a lot going on, and some of these things may even be happening all at the same time. So that's where some of the confusion comes from. So the best we've been able to discern, that's a rough chronology of where we are. And so the big thing that we're going to start with is the divide itself. There was a war that wasn't supposed to happen, and it would become known as the divide. Those in political power fought back, struggling to maintain control of a union on a rampage intent on destroying itself. Forcing martial law into place, the only thing the government succeeded in was giving the various sides a single enemy to fight, and fight they did, turning on the federal government and forcing them from power. The Second American Revolution allowed each state to become their own individual republic. Population and infrastructure decided the size of each of the republic's military, and this left some republics with a weakened military force.
So, with the nation ablaze in the fires of revolution, salvaging the state's powers came at a cost. The dissolution of federal powers and the resumption of independent state-run governments, each state would now be deemed their own republic. In the shadows, there were those who still wanted to reform the United States, but under their own control. It started small with a handful of republics banding together to form a larger super republic. From there, the snowball grew. More republics joined the movement. It happened so fast, no one really remembered how exactly it started. The media only touched on it, and it was always in a favorable light. Those republics had now combined to form what is now known as New Colonia.
And this is kind of the overview.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which,
so as you can see, all of the places with the New Colonia flag are absorbed into New Colonia. All of the other states are still independent republics. And as far as we can tell, at least from the early mission files, much of the action of the Action Force happens in Texas. that is independent.
Yep. And you can see the remains of California there. And just a side note, this is from Bobby Valla himself. He said Florida wasn't actually in the Republic, but they just think they are. So no one's telling them that they're not part of New Colonia, but they just think
That's right.
That's
Florida,
a joke,
man.
people. Bobby Valla never told me that. I'm from Florida. I'm just taking the piss out of Florida. All right. On with the show. So we got the factions. Let's take a look at these. And
right. So
first up,
so we kind of now have an overview of everything that happened and when it happened. So we know the divide happened. California had a major earthquake that broke a chunk of it off, threw it in the ocean. Cats and dogs living together, chaos. And what came of it was the independent republics. And those republics needed a way to defend themselves. So whatever pieces of the military that was left from the bases and personnel that were in each state formed what became the Republic Guard. So I'll go ahead and read this one. In the wake of the collapse of the Union, state governors and military leaders faced a dilemma. There were federal military installations and personnel present within their borders and cut off from any formal chain of command. State leadership acted swiftly, converting their respective military units into a new Republic Territory Guard, which would be responsible for security operations within the borders of each republic. And here you can see some examples of those. So these aren't just generic army builders, guys. The Republic Guard is part of the lore.
Yep, and they have a purpose. Then we have the garrison. As New Colonia swallowed up republics, it gained each military force, bringing them together as one massive unit, the garrison. Led by Carrick, the garrison carries out their orders, bringing death and destruction to those republics willing to stand against New Colonia. Carrick rages into war, leading his soldiers as cavalry of medieval as a cavalry of medieval knights.
Right. So it's important to note that, these kind of build on each other. So we start with the Republic Guard. And then as New Colonia forms and the garrison is there to enforce and grow, anything that is in a republic that becomes part of New Colonia gets absorbed into the garrison. So that's where they're getting a lot of these troops from. So every time they swallow up another one of these independent republics, the garrison grows in size.
Oh, now we have the swarm.
Indeed. Not like we talked about. We've got a power struggle here. We have different factions going. Not all republics joined with New Colonia. There were those who fought against New Colonia and their garrison army. Smaller republics who did not have the infrastructure or military were also given an option to repel New Colonia's grip, a specialized security force for hire. The Swarm is a group of elite military mercenaries run by an unknown group. When smaller republics are threatened with invasion, the Swarm can be called to protect their borders. Using the Swarm for protection also comes with a price. The corporations employing the Swarm gain a controlling the Swarm itself will gain a controlling percentage in the Republic's infrastructure. So this is kind of a unique situation. They are like a corporate entity. They come in saying, we're here to help, but you got to pay us. And you're going to pay us in ways that maybe you don't realize at first are going to be more than you want to pay. And therein lies the rub.
Then we've got Action Force. One step away from martial law, the smaller states can no longer stand back and let New Colonia call the shots. In a nation ripped apart by war, an alliance was formed. This alliance converged in secret, hidden away from the all-seeing eye of the Swarm, coming together to form a top-secret strike team. With assistance from their international allies, nations across the globe, threatened by the overtly violent rule of New Colonia, a team was formed, a force. An Action Force. These elite men and women immediately led successful missions against Carrick and his garrison. All members of Action Force retain their previous military rank. The soldiers of Action Force have sworn to protect the citizens and bring peace to the new republics. It's time for action.
Indeed. Now, we're going to highlight here the Steel Brigade. Even though they're not a separate faction, they are unique. The Steel Brigade is the code name for the support squadron within Action Force and is comprised of 80 shooters trained as the unit's own QRF, or Quick Reaction Force. So they are part of Action Force, but they do work independently, and they support the actions of the Action Force. So when they get in the heat of things and they need some backup, Steel Brigade is there.
Then you've got the Brothers of Bones. And there's just a little asterisk there and a side note. The Bone Collector and his Brothers of Bones are undergoing revisions by Vala and crew. We don't know exactly what role they'll play in the future lore. The Bone Collector does appear in Action Force Broken Alliances by Bill Nedrow. But as far as the mission files go, Arthur Allen, a.k.a. the Bone Collector, formed a private security group composed of veterans that evolved into private military known as the Brothers of Bones. They began providing security for high-ranking officials within the Republics, but were soon recruited by Carrick to be in a covert wetworks team used in the missions the garrison doesn't want to be associated with.
Right. So a lot of what we think we know about the Bone Collector right now is kind of up in the air. It's being reworked, revisited. Bobby has some clear ideas on what he wants to do, but they're not a separate faction anymore. They are now under the garrison, under the direct control of Carrack, and how they will be used, we'll see. So that kind of brings us full circle on where we are at the moment. So from what we know of the mission files and from what we've been able to glean, and again, all of this information is available on the Valaverse website. That's where all of this information was sourced from. And you can read it for yourself. We encourage you to read it for yourself and make your own speculations, come up with your own ideas of where we are. All this is kind of, we want to give a guideline of what the world is, where things fit, and encourage
like
you.
I said, hopefully this is it's a breadcrumb trail leading you to the deeper lore, because it's something I really enjoy, and because of that, I want to share it with you, and I want to see you go down that journey. I'd love to hear back from you in a couple of weeks that you read these things and what you feel about them. So it's like, when you read something really good or you really watch a great movie, you want to tell all your friends about it and not spoil it for them. Let them go check it out themselves and then discuss it later. That's what I want to do with you, the people out there. So I think that's the world of Valaverse, people. That's great. So what we could do is, I'm sorry. I think I just clicked the wrong thing, but hey, that happens. All right. So Jim, what do you think, man? That's the world of Valaverse. We're just painting a picture, or I guess setting the stage. In the future episodes, we're going to go into, and in some cases, we'll talk more about the Swarm, Steel Brigade, and all the individual characters, and kind of shine a light on them. But this is what drew me in. This is the hook. The characters came later for me, but it was this world,
Exactly. The same way, when I first found out about Valaverse, I had missed the Kickstarter. I didn't know much about them. So when I went to the Valaverse website, the first thing I saw was that there were these comic books and mission files for sale. So I ordered, I think the first 2 issues had already been printed at that point. So I ordered those along with a few other odds and ends that were available at the time. And man, they were just really cool. I love the storyline. I love the art. I love that it is building a world. And that's something that is sorely missing from a lot of other toy lines.
Do you like the fact? I love the fact that it's not okay. I think the apocalypse has been done and done and done. It's changing the world we live in. It's a big change. It's an apocalypse of sorts. But life for many people is still kind of as they know it. But the government has changed a little bit. But they're also living in a state where there's open war. Territories are being swallowed up. One day you could be the Republic of blah, blah, blah. The next day you're under these people's rule. So it's great. I really like the way, And I did want to talk just a little bit, real quick, about some of the things. I originally wanted to read through the whole novel and kind of this whole world thing. We were going to talk about everything, but as I was reading through the novel, I decided I'd be doing a great disservice to the community by telling too much
Yeah.
and potentially spoiling anything revealed. It's the kind of journey that I really encourage you to take yourself, and then come back and we can talk about it at a later time. I will mention, though, that if you're wondering as to the why these things happened, the novel does a really good job of explaining it, and it does it through a narrator who is kind of reporting on these conspirifacts of the things that went on. And what I really like about it is, without hitting you over the head, it's reminiscent of, but not exactly, it's changed just enough to be original, of the world we live in today. Like I said, if you turn the heat up to 11 on this, you could see our world turn into this world. And it kind of hits you that way, where you're like, this could happen. It's possible. It's probably not likely, but it's possible. It's a fiction.
Yeah.
It's a fictional world, so I'm not thinking it's real. But there are parallels. There are kind of things that speak to the world we live in today, but transform them in a way, like a worst case scenario way.
Yeah, it's a very fresh take. I love,
Mhm.
The Walking Dead and other post-apocalyptic
Sure.
stories, but you're right, it's been done to death. This is something that has not been done, at least in this format.
No,
We
not this
see
way.
we see the fall of a republic, and it's going out with a whimper, not a bang. There's a conflict, there's a war, but like you said, life goes on. People still have their cell
Hmm.
phones and their YouTube and God knows what. So how much this affects the man on the street every day, it depends on how heated the conflict is in their republic. But it's going to be interesting to see, as the world building expands, how does the dissolution of the United States affect Europe, affect the Middle East, affect China? This has major implications, and we're only seeing just a snapshot of it from the point of view of the Action Force and what they're having to deal with boots on the ground.
Absolutely. Well, Jim, I think we did a pretty good job. Do you want to go check out what the live Will and Largo are up to and see what they have to say about this as they talk to chat?
Yeah, those guys gotta keep an eye on them. So let's see what the Peanut Gallery has to say. Let's see what you guys in chat have to say. Let's do a Q&A. Time for action. Explore the lore. And
And
we're
we're
back.
live. Yes. So
We made it. It didn't explode. We didn't blow up the internet. So we're doing something right.
yeah, and the internet gods are being good to you today. You
Yeah,
must have done
fortunately,
something.
don't
Yes.
jinx it. Don't jinx it.
So,
But
so what do you guys think about the world of Action Force, the world that exists in? Like I said, I find it intriguing. I really enjoy it, but I'd like to hear from you guys. What do you have to
yeah,
say?
I mean, the idea here is to kind of give you an overview, kind of streamline
Yeah.
things so that everybody can get a better idea of how the
Bjorn
stories fit.
Jorgensen says he loves a good post-apocalyptic story. Sure. Um,
Yeah, I like the fact that there's a
Bill
definite new
saying we
twist on it.
change clothes so quickly, it's magic. That's right. Like that.
That's right.
Yeah. And Bjorn saying it certainly has been informative. Well, thank you. I hope it has been because that's what we aim to do. So that's great.
No Way
Okay.
Farms says the thought of a world post Balkanization. It's a crazy thought. Agreed. I mean, there are some really interesting alternate history and future history kind of novels out there. I like military fiction, and this touches on a lot of those same themes. That it's cool to see where it could go, and especially pulling on the threads of common events and then taking it to its point of absurdity, if you will.
And I think if you liked even this, or if you've read the comics and you like that, you're really gonna love the book because it really
Yeah.
does go deeper into it and does so in a way that, like I said, is familiar but new. There's a
Yeah.
lot of things that I feel like call back to old franchises that we grew up loving, but do it in a way that's really original and new. So I really like that. I did want to mention that before when you brought me on camera, I'm so sorry. My wife came on and started talking to me immediately when you put me on camera, and I was like having two conversations at once. I just want to say, yeah, the Action Force, Series 3 video from Analog Toys was fantastic. I loved it. I could always count on like Tony to find something or comment on something that I didn't even think of, and that's what I really like about watching his videos. That he'll mention a thing that I completely overlooked, and I'm like, oh my god, why didn't I
Oh
think
yeah.
of that?
The new vest designs that they've done for the females are definitely
Hmm.
an improvement, and the line just keeps getting better every iteration. And like Ted is saying, or I'm sorry, Black Knight saying here, where would you like to see this lore go? Kind of like I touched on in the pre-recorded bit, I want to see how what's going on with New Colonia affects the rest of the world. There's got to be
Yeah,
repercussions.
definitely, yeah. Because so far, all of the stories kind of take place in the former United States. So I really would like to see how that affects it, and this could go global. The repercussions of what's happening in the former United States could, even on the map there, you see part of New Colonia has reached into Mexico,
Right.
in one part there. So I'm just saying they are, kind of taking
Yep.
spots
Just a second.
there.
Say, Ted, I know you're a busy man. Thanks for dropping in, buddy.
Okay,
And
and
Bjorn, let's see, post-apocalyptic alt history, slightly sci-fi, especially the elements with what the swarm has being very
very
technologically
much so,
advanced.
yeah. And Payne's toy sample saying need fully realized characters with depth to and really humanize them. Yes,
Yeah.
that's we're going to go into each character individually, and as the time period from the launch of the book, which happened right around when we started the series, till now, we're giving people time to read those books without really going into and spoiling their things there. But yeah, there's a lot of character development in the books. They all have very individual and distinct personalities, and there are certain characters that I really like. Jim has a couple favorites there. Trigger
Yes.
for me in the book so far is
Yeah.
like one of my favorite characters. I love everything he's doing in the book. And
He's
Eclipse,
a badass. Yeah.
yeah,
Trigger is definitely a fan favorite. I just love the character. He's very well written. Bill Nedro definitely knows how to write Trigger. There is
yeah,
definitely a lot of good drama and human development in the
yeah.
story. So what you see in the mission files is a taste, just to give you kind of a snapshot of what these characters are like in action.
And
And
yeah,
then Bill
Bjorn,
Nedro's novel goes into depth.
they are already an international organization. Condor
Mhm.
is, he's British SAS, so
Right.
he
And
was
Desert Rat.
deployed in the United States. Desert Rat also. Um, who would you cast in an Action Force movie? Maybe that's a good question for another time. I think I don't want to go into
I'll
that
think
right
on
now.
that.
But yeah, I think that might be a good thing to talk about as we do the characters, like who could play this character in the movie. Might be a good thing
Yeah.
to add into. So that's a really good idea, Drew. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely
oh,
read the book. I
yeah,
highly
I've read the
recommend it.
book. Need world building. Okay, great. So what you're saying No Way Farm says, so what you're saying is we should all form our armies now so we have to jump on the downfall.
That's right.
Yeah,
We need laser mounted pigs. You should get on that because
yeah.
No Way Farms has the inside scoop on how to militarize the piggies.
And they've got releases coming out this year, so announcements are coming up. I think just in a couple of weeks. So I
Hmm.
think we will see you know figures of these characters that were introduced in the book. So
Yeah, I
um,
think we're going to see some new stuff at Joe Fest. There's been a lot of teases. There was even a tease
mhm.
today from Bobby about some new body types for new action figures that are going to be coming in the line. So probably Series 4 or Series 5 is going to be coming up.
Yeah, in just a couple of weeks. I think on the Big Body Buck post, he
Hmm.
said that they're doing a Vala fair or an Action Force fair coming up in just a couple of weeks. Um,
Exactly.
Douglas saying, just finished the book, loved it. It's the first comics, and the shipping of the ones that Bella hasn't stocked to Canada is way too much. Great recap. Thanks, guys. Oh, thank you.
Pigs with lasers. Yes, we need pigs with lasers.
And it's a buff body with a t-shirt molding. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, speaking of, Jim, didn't you have
Buff
something
bodies.
buff body that you wanted to show off? So, in addition to talking about the lore of Action Force and going into the characters a little deeper in each episode, Jim has quite a collection of mercs that he's made.
Yeah, one of the great things about what you can do with Valaverse is building your own custom figures, whether it be kit bashing or doing heavy duty customs. I'm more of a kit basher. I'm just doing pieces, parts, and making my own characters, but it's really easy to do. So with that in mind, let's check this out. All right, let's play Name That Merc.
All right. So, guys, here it is. Jim has created a merc, and he doesn't have a name. So we're going to leave it to you guys in the chat to name him. But what we want you to do is not name him in the live chat. We want you to go into the comments of the video afterwards and push your name. What we're going to do is next episode, we're going to take the 3 best names and we're going to put it to a vote, and then we will name that merc, and you win. So,
Yep.
So with that, Jim's going to show you his creation.
Yes, here's our first merc for the Spare Parts Mercenary Group. All right, so there is our hunter. I have him up here hanging out with the gargoyles at the moment. And he is a true kit bash. He's made of about 3 or 4 different characters, some from Jurassic Park, obviously most Valaverse. I've got a little bit of Duster, a little bit of Sarge, just pieces, parts to make him kind of a unique guy. I love this head sculpt that came from the Mattel line. It fit really well with the Valaverse body. And so all I know about him is he's a hunter. You guys have to tell me the rest. So what do you think's a good code name for this guy? Just put it in the comments, and yep, we'll see where that goes.
We'll talk about it next week. So that's great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we're about to wrap it up here, guys. Unless anyone had any other questions, we do want to show you what we have coming next episode.
Well, you can comment let's see, how many times can I comment my name? We will. You know what? I'm certain that a Black Knight would definitely fit in the Spare Parts Mercenary Group. I'll have to see what I can come up with.
You keep commenting him. Eventually, he may wind up on the vote and get in. So we can't say it's going to be this one. It could be.
I mean, the whole idea is we're just trying to come up with a way to keep you guys involved and do something interactive, and it's, have some fun.
And like I said, yeah, if you follow Jim on Instagram, he's been doing this for a while now, and we've had some fun with it. So we thought it'd be fun to do it with you guys as well. Well, next episode we have Condor. We're gonna go do a deep dive on Condor, or in the field leader, if you will, of Action Force. So he'll be our.
We definitely have a lot of material from the mission files to delve into, and what we know of him from his combat profile on the back of the card. We'll speculate a little bit. We won't go deep into the novel. Like we said, we want everybody to get a chance to read that before we delve into that. But yeah, we'll give an overview of what we know about Condor so far, how he interacts with Action Force, how Action Force interacts with him, all that good stuff. So that'll be 2 weeks from now, right?
Yep.
Okay. So here's a teaser, and we'll just. What's that?
Are we gonna go after that, or we're gonna come back? Okay, we'll be back, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we'll boogie because it's time for dinner.
Okay. Well, I want to say thank you so much, everyone, for coming in for the questions and comments. I do appreciate you guys coming and watching. If there's anything you'd like to see, please leave a comment and let us know, because we're new to this and we're trying to do this and develop it as we go. So,
absolutely.
Thanks again. Thank you, Jim, for having me. And with that, I'll leave it to you.
Thank you, Will. And here's a teaser for what's coming in 2 weeks.